Finally, I got to see this movie, guys. We are here. We are talking about The Batman. So in The Batman, you got this time around playing Bruce Wayne and The Batman, Robert Pattinson. He's been in the game for about 2 years, and when this Riddler character starts popping up and starts killing all these people, played by Paul Dano, Batman has to work for and against the cops in order to find the Riddler and put an end to his killing spree. Okay, The Batman, guys. I've been hearing a lot of people on Twitter talking about how amazing this movie is, and I didn't believe it until I feasted my own eyes on this movie, guys. I really had a great time with The Batman, so let's just start talking about it, starting with Robert Pattinson himself as the Cape Crusader Batman. I thought Robert Pattinson as Batman was fantastic. He is officially my favorite Batman put to screen today because he is finally the world's greatest detective. I've heard that all my life. Batman is the world's greatest detective. And I've never seen that really come to fruition within the movies. This is the first Batman movie where I sat back and went, yeah, Batman really is the world's greatest detective. And Robert Pattinson sells that as his Batman. I instantly bought into this guy, figuring out all these riddles before the cops could, looking around the room, finding things that the investigators and the cops missed. I thought it was all fantastic. And not only is his Batman great, but I really liked the way that Robert Pattinson played Bruce Wayne. It kind of reminded me of the Batman from the Lego Batman movie. I know that sounds weird, but just hear me out for a second. In the Lego Batman movie, Bruce Wayne just wants to be Batman. He doesn't want to be Bruce Wayne because Bruce Wayne's not who he is. In the Lego Batman movie, he is constantly wearing that cape and cowl, or at least just the cowl itself. With the Batman, you got kind of the same thing going on with Robert Pattinson. When he's Bruce Wayne, you see how broken, you see the true pain and the real person behind the Cape Crusader persona. And every time that Robert Pattinson is out of that Batman suit, you can just see how raw his pain really is and why he just constantly wants to be the Batman. And I don't know, I haven't looked into this, but I really do think that Robert Pattinson has set the record for how long an actor has been in their superhero costume in a superhero movie. Robert Pattinson is Batman in this Batman movie for like 90% of the time. He's hardly ever out of the cape and cowl, and I loved that. It made the title of The Batman feel very appropriate to me. I also loved that his Batman didn't talk very much. There's just something about a silent, stoic Batman that I just love. And the way that Robert Pattinson brought that to the screen this time around, I think it was the best way it's ever been done in live action thus far. I also love the subtle little detail that Matt Reeves gave to his Batman when he's in that Batman suit. Anytime he turns in the Batman suit, you can hear the rubber stretching and moving with him. It's such a subtle little thing and such a little thing, but it's a detail that you don't get from any of the other Batman movies that I found really awesome that they just paid that close attention to detail to make sure that that sound was included. The relationship between Batman and Jim Gordon in this movie was also probably my favorite it's ever been done. Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon this time around was fantastic, and I love the camaraderie that he had with Batman because these two don't trust the rest of the police force. They know how corrupt it can be, so they only have each other, they only trust each other, and you really feel just how important that is to both of them. I thought the relationship between the Batman and all of the characters was really great. Andy Serkis is the Alfred this time around. He plays Alfred kind of how we saw Michael Caine play it in the Dark Knight trilogy. Very concerned about Bruce Wayne doing this crime fighter thing, thinking he could get hurt. He's not really doing anything as Bruce Wayne to further the Wayne legacy. And that classic back and forth that you get between Bruce and Alfred was just full front and center in this movie. Alfred isn't in the movie that much, but man, does he make an impression. Andy Serkis was great. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman was one of the standouts for me in this movie. She, for me, was the heart of the movie. They really give her an emotional connection that attaches her to this story that Batman is involved with, and I loved the way that Zoe Kravitz and Robert Pattinson played off of each other because there's always that little sexual tension between the Catwoman and the Batman, and you really feel it between these two in this movie. But there's also this real strong underlining feeling of just how much they care about each other. That goes beyond their little flirtatious interactions that I thought was just a really solid foundation that they built on Batman and Catwoman in this movie. Also, I think that this is the first Batman movie with Batman and Catwoman in it where they don't go and have a dance at some kind of event. Now that is Matt Reeves breaking ground in a Batman movie. And of course, Paul Dano as the Riddler. I loved the way that Paul Dano played the Riddler character, and I really loved what Matt Reeves did with the Riddler in this movie, making him a serial killer and having his riddles be how Batman is going to learn about what he's going to do next. I thought worked incredibly well. I love the way that they translated that onto the screen with this character. A very drastic change from how Jim Carrey played the Riddler in Batman Forever, but a very welcomed one as well. And it's really hard to talk about the Batman without praising Matt Reeves' direction and writing for this film, because this film could have easily become too complex, too messy. There could have been too much going on, because there are a lot of characters in this movie. You've heard me praise a lot of actors who play characters in this movie. That's not even scratching the surface of how many characters are in this movie. You still have Colin Farrell as the Penguin in this thing, which was such an entertaining performance. He's not in the movie that much, but when he's on screen, he has your attention. And you've also got John Turturro in here as Falcone, and it sounds like there's so many villains in this movie, but the way that Matt Reeves entangles them in this web where every single character has a connection to the other character in some way, shape, or form makes it so easy to follow this story along and follow each relationship between each one of these characters. It was brilliantly directed and written as such, to the point that even when this movie gets a little complex, you never feel lost during it. And that's just one of the ways that Matt Reeves is able to keep you sucked into this world of Gotham, because this movie is 3 hours long, and I was worried going into this movie about the 3-hour running time. It was my big hesitation of whether it was gonna feel too long, and I felt like Matt Reeves paced this movie beautifully. This movie does not go at a high speed pace. This movie is very stoic, it's very somber and slow at times. There are many scenes where the camera's just holding still on something and just letting the scene play out. And I was just enwrapped in the story and the characters so much that this running time really did not feel that long at all. I literally walked out of Sonic 2 and walked right into the Batman, and Sonic 2 with its pacing problems for me felt longer than the 3-hour Batman movie. And I really could not leave this review without mentioning the cinematography in this movie. The director of photography, Greg Fraser, did such an amazing job with this movie. Each shot is so well captured. You can really feel the time and care that went into each individual scene in this movie. The movie and Gotham itself just has such a beautiful aesthetic to it, and the action sequences are masterfully done. The camera is locked down, everything is in frame, you can see what's going on, you can see every single hit that Batman is giving to these criminals, to these bad guys. I loved it so much. It was so good. It was such a thrilling, exciting way to witness Batman just unleashing vengeance. Yeah, guys, what can I say? Even with all of the hype and amazing things I was hearing from this movie, I was still blown away out of my seat when I saw it for myself. I've never really had a stake in this conversation, but Robert Pattinson is now my favorite Batman. This is now my favorite Batman movie. The Batman gets a strong recommend for me. I am so glad I was able to catch it in theaters on the cusp of it going to HBO Max in just a couple weeks. Alright guys, I know a lot of you have already seen this, so tell me down below in the comments section, what did you think of The Batman? As always, you guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video and checking out my channel. If you like talking all things movies, TV, and all things entertainment, why don't you go on and click that subscribe button, click that like button, click that notification bell, all that YouTube stuff, and I hope to talk to you guys again real soon.